Hello, I'm Mitch Bell, and today I bring you another video. Today we are working on the Knights of Camelot again. Today we are going to be doing their chief librarian for my Knights of Camelot, Merlin Ambrosius, chief librarian of the Knights of Camelot and right-hand advisor to King Arthur himself. Starting this kitbash, I grabbed the new librarian from the Armageddon box. Since I have actually not bought the Armageddon box, I bought this guy off eBay, so he's this single figure off eBay, so it's nothing too crazy, just gotta clean him up. The basis of this conversion is, well, it's not a huge conversion, really, it's just additions, if anything. Since I already like the pose, I like the way it looks, I'm quite happy with it. The main thing I want to do is add of course, a wizard's hat, as well as a beard, but then I want to do the meme. We'll get into the meme in a minute. Cleaning up the model, it actually doesn't, it's not too bad. I mean, I'm not a big fan of these push fit models, absolutely not a huge fan of it. And for this particular model, I do remove his librarian book. I'll explain why in a minute, when I do eventually show what I'm doing. I take this scout shotgun, and I'm going to attach it where the book was. Because he may be out of spells, but he's definitely not out of shells. There's the sole reason he's getting a shotgun, just because I like the idea. And just the image of Merlin running out of mana or failing a psychic check, and he's just like, fuck it, with a shotgun. What fun. You will notice that I clip off majority of the pegs, or significantly shorten them. Because again, it is just solely, I hate these push fit models. But I can't deny that this sculpt is really nice. I just wish it wasn't push fit. Other than that, mole lines aren't too bad. They're pretty well hidden actually. But the pegs and like all the sprue and the sprue pegs and everything, they are a bit excessive, but it's alright. I apologize if I sound very nasally or bad. I'm dying of hay fever. So once I got the torso together, I start seeing how I'm going to position this shotgun. First thing was first, remove the ammunition from the top of it. And now I could have modified the shotgun a bit more, because I've already modified it, making it handless. By replacing the handle with a appropriately handless handle, and at the right angle, roughly. So it looks alright. Now, instead of leaving it pre-floating, I am going to attach a strap so it actually looks like it's roughly attached. But I do attach the staff and all that because, again, push fit model, there's not much to it. The only real major changes I make to this model is I shortened the psychic hood to a psychic collar. So it just sits slightly lower so you can actually see over it and wear a... Yeah, I have no idea where that piece went. The original strap just went to the Shadow Realm, so I used the leftovers of it and I was like, attached it that way. Under his arm, so it looks like it's actively being, like, used. I make comparisons, just cutting a little bit here and there, just so it just fits. And once it's in, I'm happy. I don't do a second one because you won't see it. Once it's on a base, it would be it'd be really tricky to find to see if there is a second strap, so I just don't bother with it. Backpack looks alright. It doesn't take well to sprue to extra thin cement, but that's fine. I do tear the backpack off anyway. Now, I have this Gandalf. It's a second-hand one. It's old, and I mainly wanted it for the hat. That was solely it. I take the hat and carve it out so it actually will somewhat fit on the Astartes head. Because I'm going to use the helmetless option, so you can see his face and all that, so I can do a beard. So I sand down the head so it's relatively flat and actually sits in the in the hat to a degree. Again, I try my best to carve out that hat as much as I can without it being too empty. And then I'm going to try and thicken up the hat itself so it actually looks like it would relatively fit Astartes' head. Using a Dremel to sort of tear out a bit more material, just again, slowly working my way to make it fit the Astartes' head. Is it a great fit? Not really, but it will do. Then you see the hat is a little small, just a little bit. Brim looks alright. It's just like the head cone is a little bit short, so I do make some modifications to that, thicken it up around the base of it. Then using the positioning of the head and the psychic hood, I slowly trim it down so it is a, well, psychic collar. Slightly modified, so it does give him a bit of a different silhouette. Not by much, but the hat does most of that work. Then I attach him to his tactical rock. That somewhat shows he's using psychic magic, I guess. Again, I trim down the hood just a little bit more. Clean it up, and it's good enough for me. To me, it looks like the coat he's wearing is just... Oh, sorry about that. It looks like the coat he's got is just got like a massive collar to it, which is kind of works for this model. It makes him somewhat unique in silhouette, so I'm actually quite happy with this. Then I'm going to spend some time to like sort of bulk out the head, the hat emotionally, and then give it a beard and change the hat's sort of structure just a little bit, so it's again unique. Still enough to identify as a wizard, but not as much as Gandalf. And then you got the shotgun. Let's get into painting this. Game color Imperial Blue. As librarian law states, majority of librarians are blue, so I will be following that trend, but with additions. Game color, Imperial Blue, Fluorescent Blue. I use this to make a more vibrant highlight tone, I guess is probably the best way to go about it. It's not the same, but it is a much more vibrant version of the blue. Which surprisingly looks very nice, even though it's not much. Army Painter Matte Black. I use this to start basing anything of the metallics and anything that's going to be a different colour. Except for the cape. The cape will be a bit more of a different story. And a loincloth, but I think that's... yeah. There is a lot of black to this model. Citadel Base Dryad Bark. I use this for the base, leathers, anything that's going to be like bone or gold. Well, not really. I use black for gold, but yeah. Purity seals. Leather gloves. Again, anything leather. Anything leather, bone, and I think very particular gold, and I'm using Army Painter Leather Brown to sort of highlight stuff. Highlight the leathers and highlight the browns. It just helps. Army Painter Matte Black, model color white glaze. I use this in a stippling pattern to sort of build up the stony texture of the rock. Doing this multiple times, waiting for the paint to dry and then going back in and doing it again. And then continue that to help, again, build up texture for the base. Army Painter Matte Black. Model color aged white. I use this to base coat the undertone of the cape. And to base coat the to highlight the parchment papers of the purity seals. Citadel Base Dryad Bark. Model color, model air, US Desert Armor. I use this to base coat the bone textures. Anything that's supposed to be bone. It's sort of a mid highlight. Brown being the keeping brown in the recesses. Add model air ivory to this mix to act as a highlight color for the bone. Be very careful where you put it. Try your best to keep to where the light hits to make it look nice. Add model air aged white to the previous mix and start hitting the highest edges and detailing features. So like the edges of the rib, the goat horn, the skull, brow, the brow, the eye sockets, the orbitals, all that. Citadel Base Dryad Bark. I water this down into a very light wash and then slowly just attack anywhere that I believe that it should be slightly darker and have a bit more texture to it. Not texture, a bit more shading to it. I do this to bones, parchments, a few of the leather bits. AK acrylic color black red. I use this to sort of block out the iconic Knights of Camelot pattern for their capes, which I will be putting on the cape and the loincloth for Merlin. Ambrosius. And the shotgun. Because of course the wizard's got a shotgun. AK acrylic color volcanic yellow. I use this for the yellow part of the Knights of Camelot iconic colors. Also the Howling Griffins. Only difference is their pattern is reversed and doesn't cover as much. No, Howling Griffins covers more. I forget. Army Painter Matte Black, Game Color, Glorious Gold. I use this. I would recommend adding more water than I did. My one's a bit more thicker than it probably should have been. So recommendation, if you're going to recreate this, put a bit more water in it so it's more of a, not a contrast, but just goes on smoother than what mine does. It looks nice either way, but word of advice. And I'm using Citadel Base Retributor Gold as a highlight. I go around just highlighting just the very tops, and well, the tops of all the bits, and of course the keys. Citadel Base Bracknar Burgundy. I use this for the base coating, the staff, and the hat. It does look a bit pinky, but it will dry to a more purpley burgundy colour. AK acrylic color red black. That's not red black, that is leather brown. Model Air Aged White. I use this to sort of build up on that texture on the underside of the coat, or cape. Army Painter Matte Black and Plate Mail Metal, sorry. I use this for anything I'm willing to do, well, silver. Army Painted Dark Tone. I use this to darken down the entire model. And of course I do it on the head as well. Using Army Painter Matte White watered down to a wash, I attack the recesses of the librarian armor. This is not my best work, I'll say that much. Game Killer, Fluorescent Blue, Citadel Contrast, Frost Hard. Use this as a 50-50 mix with a little bit of water to get this nice vibrant blue. I also use eyes with that as well. Then using Army Painter, Barbarian Flesh for the flesh tones. Yes, I'm working in a bit of a odd way, I guess. Using Barbarian Flesh for these, well, the starts of his flesh. Then using Army Painter, Barbarian Flesh and Model Color Aged White from above. Just clipping the hat so you get that nice natural shadow. That does the face, and then using Army Painter Leather Brown to do the beard. Or at least base coat the beard. I'm going to make it into a wash to wash his face, to bring out the raised edges and, of course, the leather straps on his hat. Model Air Dark Earth. I use this as a dry brushing method to bring out the details of the beard that was sculpted with green stuff. Also, if you're wondering why there's a Space Wolf rune and tooth, it's because of the Space Wolves and Knights of Camelot are actually allies, so they do tend to wear bits and pieces. AK acrylic color black red. Now use this to highlight the Bracknar burgundy. As well as doing such to the staff. And here are the final results. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell so you never miss the